The 2024 election, read to you by Carol Brigham. Former President Donald Trump defeated Vice President Kamala Harris in the November 5 presidential election. He won in the Electoral College. He also won a majority of the popular vote. He will return to the White House in January 2025. Casting votes. Before Election Day, people on the news said the election was very close. Polls in some states showed that Kamala Harris and Donald Trump were tied. Experts said that it could take days or weeks to know who the next president would be. More than 87 million Americans voted before Election Day this year. Some people voted in person. Other people voted by mail. On Election Day, more than 60 million people voted in person. People stood in long lines to vote across the country. Some polling places stayed open late so that people in these lines could vote. Even with the large number of voters, voting in most of the country was smooth. Poll workers and voters were safe. But there were problems too. Some polling places had problems with the voting computers. Other places had problems with the counting machines. There were protests at some polling places in New York, and bomb threats at some polling places in Georgia. Counting votes. On Election Day, states counted the early votes and the Election Day votes. However, each state has different laws about counting mailed-in votes. Some states counted those ballots as they arrived. Other states could not count the mailed-in ballots until November 5. News programs reported on the vote counts. When the polls closed in each state, the reporters showed the number of votes that had been counted for each candidate. When one candidate got the most votes in a state, the reporters called that state for that candidate. Reporters called some states very quickly. These states have people who vote mostly for one party or the other. Some states are swing states. Reporters could not call the swing states quickly. They had to wait for officials to count more votes. The news reporters were on TV all night while states counted votes. Finally, at 5:30 a.m. on Wednesday, November 6, TV news projected that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance had 270 electoral votes. They would win the election. This meant that Donald Trump would be president again. He would become the 47th president of the United States on January 20, 2025. J.D. Vance would be the vice president. On Wednesday afternoon, Vice President Kamala Harris gave a speech. She conceded the election. She said it was important to accept the election results to protect our democracy. Historical win. Donald Trump will be the 45th and 47th President of the United States. It is not usual for presidents to serve non-consecutive terms. Most presidents who lose re-election do not run for president again. Grover Cleveland was the only other president to serve non-consecutive terms in U.S. history. He was the 22nd and 24th president. Popular votes and electoral votes. As of November 14, Donald Trump had received 75,871,178 popular votes. Kamala Harris received 72,859,037 popular votes. Donald Trump will be the first Republican to win the popular vote in 20 years. The last Republican to win the popular vote was George W. Bush in 2004. The winner of the popular vote does not always win the election. The winner must have 270 electoral votes from the states. Are the results official? No, not yet. Usually computers analyze the percentages of votes to project the winner. The news network's computers have been right since 1952. But it's not over until an election official in each state certifies the vote count. Which votes should not be counted? By law, some votes cannot be counted. These include votes that were postmarked after Election Day and votes that came in after the state's deadline for mail-in ballots. Votes from people who are not U.S. citizens, who do not live in the state, or who have died are not legal. What happens next? There are a few votes among the more than 151 million votes that should not be counted. But that number is very small. Donald Trump will be certified as the winner of 312 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 226 electoral votes. The electors will cast their state's votes for president on December 14. The new Congress will count these electoral ballots on January 6, 2025. Transition of power. In our democracy, the change from one leader to the next is supposed to be peaceful. The losing candidate promises to support the winner. The president-elect gets the same daily intelligence briefing as the president. The government gives the president-elect money to pay his new office assistants. Everyone usually helps the next administration get ready to govern. In the 2020 election, this did not happen. Some people did not believe the election was fair. On January 6, 2021, a large group of people went to Washington, D.C. to protest. They marched to the Capitol. They forced their way into the building. Some people were hurt and a few people were killed. This year, President Biden called President-elect Donald Trump and invited him to the White House. In her speech, Kamala Harris said there would be a peaceful transfer of power to President Trump. Lots of work to do. Donald Trump has a lot of work to do before he takes office on January 20, 2025. He must choose members of his cabinet. There are also more than 4,000 jobs to fill in his administration. He has already chosen Susan Summerall Wiles as his White House Chief of Staff. She was his campaign manager. She is the first woman to be the Chief of Staff. Other election results. On November 5, Americans also voted for their representatives to Congress. In some states, they voted for senators, governors, and mayors. Members of the 119th Congress will take office January 3, 2025. Republicans will be the new majority party in the Senate. They won 4 Senate seats that Democrats had in the 118th Congress. There will be 53 Republican senators, 45 Democratic senators, and 2 independent senators. Republicans will also have the majority in the House of Representatives. At the time Easy English News went to press, there were 208 Democratic representatives and 218 Republican representatives. There were still 9 seats open. Officials in these areas were still counting votes. Americans also voted for state leaders. In 11 states and 2 U.S. territories, people chose new governors. In 10 states, people voted for new attorney generals. People in 7 states elected new secretaries of state, and in 10 states, voters chose new treasurers. Americans voted for other things besides their leaders. In 10 states, voters chose rules for abortion rights in their state. In 15 states, voters chose to make changes in their voting laws. Some states passed stronger crime laws. Some states raised the state minimum wage. A few states voted to make changes in their other labor laws. Other states voted on marriage equality rights in those states. 4 states voted on legalizing marijuana. Only voters in Nebraska voted to make medical marijuana legal. For more information about Easy English News, or to subscribe to our digital version or our paper copies, visit our website, easyenglishnews.com. If you like this video, please remember, like it and share it. Thanks. Have a great day.